She looked like any other expectant mother. Belly round, hand on her back, eyes full of that mix of excitement and fear only a first-time parent knows. But what Amira Lane didn't know was that she was walking straight into a nightmare. Amira Lane was 31 years old when she stepped into Rosewood Women's Medical Center. She was 7 months pregnant. A baby boy, Noah. Her first child after 2 miscarriages and a long battle with endometriosis. She had chosen Rosewood for one reason. Dr. Garrett Vale. The doctor with a glowing reputation. Over 10,000 deliveries. Featured on morning shows. The baby whisperer, they called him. Mothers adored him. Nurses admired him. The hospital, they protected him. But behind the accolades was a man who had learned to hide his darkness under the glow of fluorescent lights. And Amira? She was his next patient. He smiled like a man who had saved lives. But he looked at Amira like she was already his. Dr. Garrett Vale met Amira during her 29-week checkup. He walked into the room wearing a soft gray lab coat, embroidered name, perfectly styled hair, and that signature charm. He asked about her cravings, told her she was glowing. Then his hand lingered just a little too long on her shoulder. She told herself she imagined it. Everyone said he was the best. Women flew across the country just to deliver with him. He once performed an emergency C-section in an elevator. That was the headline anyway. And when Amira expressed concern about her growing back pain and occasional spotting, he told her not to worry. Completely normal, he said. Your body's just adjusting to perfection. But her body was telling her something was wrong. No tests were ordered. Just a smile. The first red flag didn't wave. It whispered. 2 weeks later, Amira found a message slipped into her purse after a routine visit. No signature. No handwriting. Just a typed note on a piece of hospital chart paper. Check your files. Don't trust your doctor. N42 N42. She didn't know what it meant at the time. But later, she'd learn it was the employee number of Nurse Lila Tompkins. A quiet but watchful night shift nurse who mysteriously stopped showing up to work 2 days later. Amira logged into her patient portal that night and noticed something strange. 2 ultrasounds were missing from her file. Her lab results from a week ago. Pending. Even though Dr. Vale had already discussed them. When she called the front desk, she was told her records had been archived for internal review. The woman on the phone sounded nervous. She apologized 3 times in a row. Then the line went dead. And that's when Amira felt the first pang of something deeper than worry. It was fear. He didn't want patients. He wanted worshippers. And if you questioned him, you became a threat. After the strange note and the missing files, Amira tried to act normal. She kept her next appointment with Dr. Vale, but something in her shifted. She stopped smiling so much. She asked more questions. And Vale noticed. Stress isn't good for the baby, he said as he palpated her stomach. You're overthinking. He recommended she stop reading online forums. He asked if her husband was being supportive. He told her not to share confusing symptoms with people who weren't medical professionals. He said it all with a smile. Then he gave her a brochure for Rosewood's private maternity program, a luxury package that promised VIP birthing privileges. But the cost? $12,000 up front. She declined, and Vale's demeanor shifted, just for a second. Cold, brief, but unforgettable. Then came the kicker. You want the best care, don't you? It wasn't what he did. It was how he did it. The way he made her doubt what she felt in her own skin. At her 32-week appointment, Vale performed a cervical check that felt different. He didn't warn her first. Didn't ask consent. His glove grazed the inside of her thigh, slow, deliberate. His hand stayed longer than necessary. Amira froze. When she pulled her legs together, he smiled and said, Relax. I'm just keeping your baby safe. She laughed nervously, trying to shake it off. But when she got home, she sat in her car for 20 minutes, shaking. Her partner, Jordan, noticed her mood, asked if she was okay. She said she was fine. She wasn't. It started small. A spot here, a cramp there. But her body was screaming. And no one was listening. 2 days later, Amira woke up to light spotting on her sheets, followed by a dull, throbbing pain in her lower abdomen. She called the emergency line. The nurse said Dr. Vale had been paged. But 2 hours passed. Then 3. Finally, she got a call. From Vale's assistant, not the doctor himself. She was told it was normal for some women. No need to come in. Wait until your next appointment, the assistant said. If it gets worse, go to urgent care. But it did get worse. And when Amira returned to the hospital 4 days later, she didn't realize it would be the last time she'd feel her son kick. It didn't happen all at once. That's how manipulation works. Slow, quiet, effective. Over the next 2 weeks, Amira noticed something strange. Her calls went unanswered, her questions brushed aside. Dr. Vale stopped involving the attending nurses during her checkups. It was always just the two of them now. The room was too quiet, too private. When she asked about switching to a midwife or getting a doula, Vale warned her, "Too many cooks in the kitchen can be dangerous, especially for high-risk pregnancies like yours." When her fiancé Jordan questioned the missing ultrasounds, Vale smiled and said, "You're not the patient here, are you?" Jordan backed off. And that's exactly what Vale wanted. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock. Sometimes it whispers through a cracked door when no one's watching. Amira was in the hallway waiting for a stress test when she overheard 2 nurses talking. "She's another one, huh? Poor thing. Doesn't even know. I told Lila not to get involved. Look what happened to her." They stopped talking the moment they saw her. When she asked, they changed the subject. Smiled too wide. One even apologized. Pregnancy hormones make everything sound scarier than it is. But Amira couldn't let it go. She searched for Lila Rosewood nurse online. What she found made her stomach drop. Lila Tompkins had filed a formal complaint against Dr. Garrett Vale 8 months ago. Then she abruptly left the hospital. Her LinkedIn status: no longer working in healthcare. Her body wasn't the only thing being violated. Her records were, too. Determined to find answers, Amira logged into her patient portal again. Gone. The ultrasound from week 30? Disappeared. The blood work from week 28? Marked as cancelled by physician. She called the hospital's records department. After being transferred twice, a supervisor finally told her, "We're reviewing your chart for inconsistencies per Dr. Vale's directive." Inconsistencies? She never approved that. Her medical file, her body, was no longer hers. Amira took screenshots of everything. And that night, an untraceable number texted her. "Stop digging. Some babies don't make it. Don't make this worse." The last time she felt her baby move was 6:17 a.m. on a Thursday. By 3:10 p.m., she was on the operating table. And her world was about to be silenced. The pain came fast. First a sharp cramp, then a gush of blood. Jordan rushed her to the ER. She was screaming by the time they arrived. But she waited 45 minutes until Vale showed up. No other doctor would touch her. He had flagged her file as Vale-only clearance. By then, there was no heartbeat on the monitor. Vale didn't allow a second opinion. He didn't allow questions. He took her into surgery. 7 hours later, Amira woke up. Noah was gone. Stillborn. No autopsy was scheduled. No explanation given. Just a sedated haze and Dr. Vale's hand on her shoulder whispering, "I did everything I could, but he didn't, and someone would prove it." It wasn't just the monitor that flatlined. It was her future, her hope, her entire world, gone in silence. Amira awoke to sterile walls and a nurse she didn't recognize. Her body ached, her throat was dry, and her arms were empty. No one said the words at first. It was Vale who eventually walked in, calmly removing his gloves, and said it like a footnote in a chart. "I'm sorry, Amira. Your son didn't make it." No cause, no explanation, no warning. She wasn't given a moment to say goodbye. The baby had already been taken away. He told her the placenta had ruptured, that it was one of those things. But Amira remembered something. Before she passed out, the monitor had gone quiet. The alarms had never gone off. Pain makes you forget. Trauma makes you remember things you shouldn't. Amira kept replaying the surgery in her head. A voice, laughter, music. Why had there been music playing in the operating room? She remembered someone saying, "Time's up." That wasn't normal. And when she asked the attending nurse about it, the woman blinked, hesitated, then said, "I wasn't in the room. Dr. Vale prefers a private surgical team." Private? Why would a delivery be private? Amira's chest tightened. Something was wrong. The most dangerous liars are the ones in white coats, the ones we're taught to trust. Vale discharged her in under 48 hours. No grief counseling. No psychiatric consultation. No funeral arrangements. He told her, "You should go home. Grieve in peace. Dwelling on it won't help." But she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. And when she called to ask about the surgical report, she was told it was sealed. Pending internal review. Internal review? She'd never been told of any complications. Then a message came through her portal, from Vale directly. "Take care of yourself. Don't chase answers that won't bring him back." It didn't feel like compassion. Felt like a warning. The only thing she left the hospital with was a packet of paper, a prescription for Ambien, and a hollow ache where life had once lived. Inside her discharge folder was a slip of paper labeled, "Fetal demise, natural causes." Natural? Nothing about what happened felt natural. The form was incomplete. Boxes unchecked. No follow-up. She found another patient in the recovery ward. A woman named Celine, who whispered that her baby had died during delivery just 3 weeks earlier. Same OB. Same story. He told me it was a rare complication, but no one explained what happened. Just silence. 2 women. Same doctor. Same outcome. And then 2 days later, a package arrived at Amira's door. Unmarked. No return address. Inside was a USB drive. Sometimes the dead leave messages. Sometimes they're saved by the living, the ones brave enough to hit record. She hesitated before opening the file. Her hands shook. Her chest felt tight. But she clicked play. It was grainy security footage from the surgical hallway, angled just enough to see the operating room's partially open door. Timestamp: 3:05 p.m. You could hear the monitor flatline. Then silence. Dr. Vale stepped out into the hallway and laughed. "Guess that one wasn't meant to be." Another voice replied, "Should we call it?" Vale shrugged. "I've already written the time." The monitor was still beeping in the background. She stopped the video and vomited. There are monsters in this world. Some wear fangs. Others wear stethoscopes. The footage lasted only 1 minute and 47 seconds. But it confirmed 2 things. 1. Noah was still alive when Vale stepped out of the room. 2. The team waited until he said, "I've already written the time," before stopping the code. They didn't try to revive him. They didn't even call in another surgeon. They let him die. Amira knew she couldn't stay silent. But going public meant war. The woman behind the note had a name, and she'd paid the price for trying to help. Amira tracked her down. Lila Tompkins, the nurse who'd slipped her the warning. She was living in a rural town 2 hours north, working at a veterinary clinic. Amira begged for answers. Lila broke down in tears. "You weren't the first, Amira, and you won't be the last." She told her Vale had been red-flagged internally 4 times, but the hospital buried it each time. They said they'd ruin me if I went public, and I believed them. Now she was ready to talk, but only if Amira promised to protect her identity. 1 victim is a tragedy. 2 is a coincidence. But 3, that's a pattern. That's a predator. Lila gave her a list. Names, patient numbers, dates, 13 in total. 8 of them had experienced unexpected fetal demise. 3 others had reported misconduct but retracted their statements. 1 had committed suicide just 4 months ago. Her name was Maria Trujillo. Her baby died during delivery with Vale. She posted a cryptic video online the day before her death. He said some babies weren't meant to live. But who gets to decide that? Amira watched it 5 times. Then she decided, She wasn't going to be silent anymore. Not all heroes wear badges. Some wear guilt. Amira posted a vague tweet. What happens when your doctor takes your baby and your voice? It went viral overnight. She was flooded with DMs, most sympathetic, some accusatory, and one anonymous. Check the internal review board memo. Look for case hashtag E11-98. The truth is buried there. She traced the number to an internal hospital document. It detailed a complaint filed against Dr. Vale 2 years prior. The complainant? A resident who witnessed him falsify patient vitals. That resident had been terminated for insubordination, but he was still alive, and Amira was going to find him. Everyone knew. They just didn't speak. Because in medicine, silence is safer than truth. She got a meeting with the former resident Marcus Lynn. He was nervous, fidgety, but honestly, I tried to stop him, but he's protected, Amira. You don't understand, he brings in millions to that hospital. He's untouchable. He told her Vale had his own surgical team. He handpicked the staff, wrote his own reports, and anyone who questioned him, gone, transferred, fired, discredited. You're not just going after a doctor. You're going after a system that let him play God. Amira didn't care. She'd lost everything. And now she wanted the truth no matter the cost. When the system doesn't listen, you bring in someone who doesn't play by their rules. Amira hired a private investigator, Mason Cray, a former cop with a quiet demeanor and a reputation for finding what others missed. He didn't flinch when she showed him the footage, or the USB, or the text messages. You've got a monster on your hands, but monsters bleed. You just have to cut deep enough. Within a week, Mason tracked down 2 former employees from Rosewood who had left abruptly, both with non-disclosure agreements. They didn't want to talk until they saw the video. Then everything changed. They called it the Whisper Network, a hidden circle of women connected by loss and silence. It started with a group chat, then a Zoom call. 5 women, all patients of Dr. Vale, all with eerily similar stories. Pressure to avoid second opinions, unexplained symptoms, last-minute emergency surgeries, and babies who didn't survive. One of them, Leah, admitted she had been blackmailed into silence. He had photos, private ones. I never sent them to him, but he had them. He had hacked her iCloud. She was sure of it, and he told her if she ever went public, her career in medicine would be over. Amira realized it wasn't just negligence. It was controlled, and blackmail. Vale didn't lose babies. He selected them. Mason's investigation uncovered something darker. The babies who died. Most were insured under comprehensive maternal packages, high payout insurance plans. Vale had financial ties to a quiet third-party medical billing company, RMD Analytics. It received generous consulting fees every time one of his high-risk patients filed a loss of pregnancy claim, meaning he profited off their deaths. It wasn't just malpractice. It was murder by motive, and Amira had proof. Now she needed power. When the courts fail, you take it to the court of public opinion. Amira contacted investigative journalist Nia Reed, known for exposing a human trafficking ring disguised as a modeling agency. Nia was cautious but intrigued. I've had stories that kill careers. This one could start a war. She began digging, found sealed settlements connected to Rosewood. At least 6 families had been paid under NDAs, all former Vale patients. She agreed to publish, but needed one last thing. A voice. On record. Amira agreed, and the countdown began. Truth is loud, but threats are louder when whispered in the dark. 3 days before Nia's article was set to publish, Amira's apartment was broken into. Nothing stolen, nothing touched, except her computer. A single note left on her bathroom mirror in red lipstick. Stillborn secrets stay buried. No prints, no footage. Mason was furious. They're watching you. You need to go somewhere safe. Amira checked into a hotel under a fake name. She wasn't just uncovering the truth anymore. She was surviving it. He didn't just prey on patients. He manipulated colleagues. And sometimes, he seduced them. Nia uncovered something explosive. Dr. Vale had been in a long-term affair with Dr. Claire Hadley, an anesthesiologist at Rosewood. But it wasn't romantic. It was transactional. Claire had once reported Vale for performing unnecessary surgeries. Weeks later, he cornered her in the on-call room and said, "Report me again, and I'll show them that bottle of fentanyl in your locker." Claire agreed to keep quiet, and in return, Vale made her his accomplice. Every questionable delivery, she was in the room, until she wasn't, because Claire had gone missing 2 months ago. Her name was still on the hospital staff page, but no one had seen her. Not in weeks. Dr. Claire Hadley had vanished. No resignation letter. No forwarded address. Her apartment lease ended abruptly. Her car was still registered but hadn't moved. And the hospital claimed she was on leave. But Mason pulled security records. She hadn't swiped into Rosewood in 56 days. Her phone went dead the same day she missed her first shift. Amira knew what that meant. Another woman silenced. Maybe forever. The truth was no longer in hiding. It was roaring. And it couldn't be stopped. Naya published the article. Front page. Full spread. Title: The Doctor Behind the Loss. Inside Rosewood's Secret Scandal. The footage. The blackmail. The names. All exposed. It spread like wildfire. Twitter exploded. TikTok videos recapped the case. Survivors came forward on camera in tears. Vale denied everything. But the hospital issued a quiet statement. "We are conducting an internal review." Mason smirked. Too late. Cornered men don't retreat. They retaliate. Vale filed a defamation lawsuit against Amira. Claimed the video was deepfaked. Accused her of slander, emotional instability, and obsessive harassment. Then he released a statement. "I have dedicated my life to delivering life. These accusations are not only false, they are evil." But behind the scenes, he was unraveling. Hospital staff leaked texts, audio clips. One nurse sent a voicemail. He said, "I've done this for years. They can't touch me. They never do. Now maybe they could." Justice doesn't come fast. But sometimes, it knocks when you least expect it. 5 weeks after the article dropped, Vale was arrested. Not for Noah's death, but for obstruction, evidence tampering, and witness intimidation, including the threats to Amira. The investigation was open. Federal agents stepped in. Amira watched his arrest on the news. He didn't cry, didn't protest, just smiled, like a man who still believed he was invincible. But that was about to change. It wasn't just him on trial. It was the entire institution that protected him. The courtroom was full. Reporters, survivors, Rosewood staff. Dr. Garrett Vale walked in wearing a crisp suit and that same controlled smirk. He pleaded not guilty. Bail was denied, citing risk of witness intimidation. Amira sat in the back row, silent, shaking. The woman who once trusted him with her life now stared into the eyes of a man who stole everything. And he winked at her. What started as obstruction turned into something far worse. As the grand jury convened, more victims came forward. Lila testified. So did Leah, Celine, and the anonymous source known only as Patient K. Each story was a puzzle piece. And when they fit together, the picture was horrifying. 5 charges of medical manslaughter, 2 counts of coercion, 3 for unlawful surveillance, and a sealed federal charge tied to financial fraud. Dr. Vale was no longer just a surgeon. He was now a suspect in the deaths of 5 infants. His lawyers were sharp, ruthless, paid to destroy credibility before truth. Vale's team attacked the victims, called Amira emotionally unstable, claimed Lila had a vendetta, suggested survivors had exaggerated trauma for internet fame. They even hired a digital expert to question the authenticity of the USB footage. But Amira's PI, Mason, had receipts. The video was real. The timestamps matched hospital logs. The metadata was unaltered. Every lie Vale tried to spin was crumbling. She wasn't just testifying for herself. She was testifying for her son. Amira took the stand in week 3 of the trial. She detailed everything: the subtle manipulation, the medical gaslighting, the isolation, the unexplained silence in the operating room. When the prosecutor asked, "Did you feel like you had a choice?" Amira answered, "I felt like I was trapped in a room with someone who could make me bleed, and no one would stop him." The courtroom was silent. Even Vale stopped smirking. They tried to break her, but they didn't know what broken really looked like. The defense grilled her. "Were you taking antidepressants? Did you experience delusions after the loss? Isn't it true you posted inflammatory things about Dr. Vale online?" Amira held her ground. "I lost a child. I lost control of my own body. I wanted to scream, and I did. That doesn't make me crazy. It makes me human." The judge intervened when the defense crossed the line. Amira stepped down, tears in her eyes. But she didn't cry for herself. She cried for Noah. The best evidence comes from the person you least expect. Claire Hadley, the missing anesthesiologist, was found alive, in rehab, sober for 4 months. She contacted Nia Reed directly, and she agreed to testify. Her testimony changed everything. "I saw him let babies die. I saw him pause CPR while he took phone calls. He manipulated fetal heart rates. He bragged about getting away with it." She turned over audio recordings she had secretly made. On one, Vale said, "Babies die all the time. It's not a tragedy. It's business." That audio played in court, and you could feel the room shift. Truth sells, but so does scandal. As the trial exploded in the media, Amira became the face of survival. Interviews, headlines, documentaries in the works. She didn't want fame. She just wanted the truth to outlive the lies. And it was working. Hospitals across the country quietly reviewed patient deaths linked to Vale's methods. Some began investigations of their own. Others denied everything. But the ripple had started. Some stories are buried so deep, only the guilty can unearth them. The prosecution called their final witness, an accountant from RMD Analytics. She admitted to processing bonus payouts tied to patient mortality codes. She provided spreadsheets. Vale received $12,000 per complicated maternal loss over 3 years. The motive was now undeniable. This wasn't just ego. This was murder for profit. Sometimes justice is slow. Sometimes it roars. The prosecution stood in front of the jury. He used his license to silence. He used trust as a weapon. And he chose which babies lived or died, not based on medicine but money. The defense tried to paint him as a scapegoat. Complications happen. Grief needs a villain. But not every tragedy is a crime. The jury didn't look convinced. Especially not after the audio. Not after Claire. Not after Amira. 12 strangers. One decision. A mother's entire life hanging in the balance. The jury deliberated for 17 hours. When they returned, the courtroom was tense. Amira sat in the second row, clutching a folded piece of paper, a copy of Noah's ultrasound. The foreperson stood. "On all counts, we find the defendant guilty." Gasps, tears, silence. Vale didn't flinch, but Amira watched his hands. The same hands that once touched her belly like a promise. They were shaking. He knew. It was over. Guilty was a word. But justice needed weight. Dr. Garrett Vale was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge called him a danger cloaked in a white coat. Amira didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She just exhaled. Because it wasn't joy. It was survival. But it still didn't bring Noah back. When one domino falls, the whole system wobbles. Rosewood Medical was hit with multiple civil lawsuits. The board resigned. The hospital changed its name. Insurance partners pulled out. New regulations were introduced. Mandatory second opinions for C-sections, stricter fetal monitoring audits, mental health screenings for OB-GYNs. The healthcare system was forced to look inward. But Amira knew. They only changed because they got caught. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means rebuilding together. Amira helped launch a nonprofit called Noah's Light, a network for women who'd survived medical trauma and sexual coercion in healthcare. They held meetings. testified at panels, created safe spaces. One survivor said, "He took so much from us, but he didn't take our voice." Amira finally stopped feeling alone, and that mattered. The story needed to be told, but it needed to be told right. Journalist Naya Reid wrote a best-selling book titled Under His Care, the title Amira had chosen herself. She didn't sugarcoat anything. Not the loss, not the corruption, not the pain. Amira read it in one night, and when she reached the final page, a dedication to Noah, she broke down. For the child who never breathed, but whose name saved so many. He never wanted credit. He just wanted justice. Mason Cray, the PI who unraveled everything, declined every interview. He left Amira a note and a box with every piece of evidence he'd gathered. "If they ever come back, this will protect you." Then he disappeared. No social media, no forwarding address. Amira never saw him again, but she'd always owe him everything. Sometimes the scariest thing is knowing they're still thinking about you. A year later, Amira received a letter from Vale. It was handwritten. No apology, just manipulation masked as sentiment. "I only ever wanted to help you, but you were always so emotional. Maybe someday you'll understand what I had to do." She didn't reply. She burned it, and felt cleaner for it. A headstone doesn't hold a child, but it holds the grief. Amira visited Noah's grave on what would have been his second birthday. She brought flowers, a tiny stuffed lion, and the ultrasound photo she had clutched during the trial. "You didn't get a first cry, but you gave me my first reason to fight." She sat there for hours, and for the first time since that night, she didn't feel like she failed him. She wasn't the same woman, and she never wanted to be. Amira began speaking publicly, not just about her case, but about what it meant to survive systems built to silence. She traveled, taught workshops, changed policies. One hospital started a scholarship in Noah's name for maternal health reform. He didn't get to live, but now others will. She didn't want closure. She wanted consequence. Amira never believed in healing as a finish line. There were still triggers, still nightmares, but there was also power. She kept a framed quote on her desk. "You are not what happened to you. You are what you do with it." Every time she spoke, she gave someone else permission to stand up. They trusted him. He took everything. But he didn't take her. Amira stood on stage at a conference for women in medicine. She looked into the audience, full of survivors, doctors, mothers, students, and she told the story, the whole story, not as a victim, but as a witness, to the horror, to the power of truth, and to the love that never died. What was your favorite part of this story? What would you do differently if you see yourself in a situation like this? Put your answer in the comments section. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment for more exciting true crime stories.